Next speaker, Mr. Graham Reece, is with ProLogis, and he will be discussing a very interesting development in logistics.
My position at ProLogis is as Senior Vice President, and I'm the Director of Project Management for Central and Eastern Europe. The Romanian Green Building Council have invited me here today to provide some insight to a particular case study today, and so therefore we've got fairly limited time. If there are any technical questions that you might like to ask about this particular project, we have a presentation area in the foyer, and so therefore I'd like to invite you after the presentations to come along. We'll be able to answer any detailed questions that you may have about this particular project. First of all, we're delighted to be here today and to be a founding member of the Romanian Green Building Council. ProLogis has a global platform, and we are associated with other green building councils around the world, so therefore this follows our general course of practice. And we're delighted to be here at the opening event today, the launch of the Green Building Council. Just for those of you who don't know who ProLogis are, we are the world's leading provider of logistics, industrial real estate across 3 continents. We now own and manage over 50 million square meters of industrial logistics space around the world across 3 continents. We do that in 22 countries, and we provide space for almost 5,000 customers now throughout the world. This, we believe, gives us a unique position in terms of being an owner, investor, occupier of our industrial space. In terms of sustainability, we have a common objective throughout the world. It differs not in Central and Eastern Europe or in Romania from that same sustainability mission statement in the USA. And that is to be the world's global provider, leading global provider of sustainable distribution facilities around the world. But that is in providing a balance between the shareholder value, i.e. the economy of the schemes, with the environmental impact that the schemes have, and also recognizing the aspirations of the communities in which we're operating. So this is a consistent sustainability mission statement for ProLogis. ProLogis now globally has adopted a triple bottom line reporting initiative. This is based on the international GRI principles, whereby we not only report on financial performance of the organization, but we now report also on sustainability and social impact of the organization across the globe. We're also the first real estate developer that has become a member of the Chicago Climate Exchange. This exchange was set up about 10 years ago now to enable companies to gain carbon credits and to trade those carbon credits. And so therefore, ProLogis, as a member of this exchange, is able to generate carbon credits from the sustainable developments that we complete, and also to work with our supply chain to offset a lot of the carbon deficits that our supply chain actually produces. It also gives us an advantage in working with our customers, such that they can also gain benefit from exchanging some of their carbon deficits from the operation of the buildings with the credits within our exchange. Across the globe as well, we've aligned ourselves with the recognized accreditation processes for sustainability. In the USA now, all of ProLogis's buildings are now constructed to a LEED standard. And so therefore they will receive a LEED accreditation of all buildings. In the UK, all of the buildings now are being constructed by ProLogis to achieve a very good rating under the BREEAM accreditation system. And in Japan, all of our projects are being developed on the CASB rating. These are the 3 accreditation systems that are adopted by ProLogis, and we are now looking to pilot BREEAM Europe within Central and Eastern Europe and continental Europe, as well as the UK. So on to the main topic of this particular presentation, which is a case study. We've selected a particular case in the UK where we had a partnership arrangement with Sainsbury's to produce a distribution facility for them that achieved the best possible, best-in-class environmental performance. This was a project in Northampton called Pineham. So if I can explain some of the features of this particular building. First of all, it was agreed between Sainsbury's and ProLogis that the target for this building would be to achieve excellence under the BREEAM rating as well as a LEED Gold standard. And what does that mean in terms of the content of the building and how that might differ from a standard distribution centre? First of all, we looked at the management of site impacts. And that is working with our supply chain to ensure that during the execution and construction of the project, the minimum amount of energy is expended in that execution, that the minimum amount of waste is produced by that execution, and that what waste is produced is actually recycled. So there's a program of recycling of that waste. When we came to commission the building, ensuring that there's a centralized building management system that is capable of seasonal change in the facility to account for the seasonal change in temperatures and the different operating criteria. Considering the health and well-being of the occupiers of the building, it has quite a large office content, this distribution facility, as well as refrigerated areas and ambient storage areas. So the outline design of the project was specifically designed to maximize the environmental well-being of the occupants. So therefore, the office building, for instance, has a dual aspect to it rather than being placed against the warehouse. This provides an increase in natural daylight and also an increase in ventilation, natural ventilation to the occupants of the offices. In the ambient storage areas, an increase in natural daylight, again, provided from skylights to the roof of the warehouse as well, increases the actual environment in which the operations take place in the building. And also, combined with that, the use of low-energy lighting equipment and also the ability to control that lighting equipment. A centralized heating, cooling plant, an energy plant was introduced into the system that produces the cooling efficiency for Sainsbury's to cool its refrigerated areas of the building. So this was a major saving in energy because we're using both the production of electricity and the cooling effect from that plant to be able to operate the facility. This reduced Sainsbury's operational costs for the building dramatically. In addition to this, we introduced a concept which is known as solar wall, which was produced first in Canada, which is a passive thermal heating system. It's an additional layer, an envelope layer to the outside of the building, which heats up a cavity, and then the heated cavity, the air within the heated cavity actually enters the building, thus increasing the temperatures, reducing your heating costs within the building. And one of the principal factors of improvement as well is the air tightness. ProLogis now adopts an air tightness criteria for all of its buildings across Europe of 2.5 cubic meters per square meter at 50 pascals. That's quite an onerous condition in terms of air tightness. With increased air tightness, we increase thermal performance of the building and reduce energy losses. In addition to the actual fabric of the building and the design, we also take into consideration the environment and the placement of the building and see what benefits we can introduce in terms of transportation facilities so that we work with local authorities to provide a public transport network, again reducing the amount of car usage to the project and reducing the overall energy use of that particular project. And also, we are encouraging walking and cycling to the facility and making sure that there's adequate provisions for that. Water usage has already been mentioned. It's likely that water will become the most scarce resource on the planet, and so therefore a lot of emphasis is now being placed on rainwater harvesting within our schemes and reduction of use of potable water in terms of low flush WCs, aerated taps, etc. And so therefore trying to reduce to a minimum the actual water usage within the facilities. Material use. Stephen mentioned earlier about using timbers from sustainable sources. And also, one important factor is designing for robustness. A building is not going to be sustainable if it's continually being damaged or continually needs to be maintained or replaced. And so therefore one of the key factors is ensuring that the original design of the building is designed for its life purpose. And so therefore you're minimizing the amount of reuse and recycling of design, and also introducing replacement parts. Ecology. Ecology is taking an increasing importance on the projects, from the surrounding neighborhood of the projects to making sure that there is sufficient ecology maintenance on the project, that there's not a deficit created by the introduction of this facility. There's an actual enhancement in the local ecology, which is important. And also ensuring that the equipment that we put into the building minimizes the amount of pollutants, so therefore refrigerants that we use have the lowest possible global warming potential, boilers have low nitrous oxide potential as well. These are all factors that we take into consideration. Now, in addition to those measures, one target that Sainsbury's introduced to us was that they wanted what is known as a zero carbon building. Whereby the amount of carbon that is expended in the production of that building is actually zero or can be offset. If we look traditionally, the amount of energy that is used within a logistics building used to be about 70% in the operation of the building, in the lighting, heating, provisions, etc., and only 30%, which was the embodied energy in producing that building, the energy that's gone into producing the building. If you look at that graph now, it's dramatically changed. As the amount of energy consumption has reduced through efficiencies of the design, then the proportion of embodied energy has actually increased dramatically. So now is the larger proportion of the energy of a new facility. So therefore, it has an increasing importance, and so therefore this is something that we wanted to tackle with Sainsbury's. So we actually did a carbon footprinting exercise for this particular project, where we calculated the exact carbon production that had gone into the construction of the building. We looked at the carbon production in terms of the operation, and then looked to offset what that remaining deficit was. And so through our Chicago Climate Exchange, we were able to offset the remaining carbon production so that it is a truly carbon neutral building that's been produced for Sainsbury's. So we looked in detail, such as the basic building components, and looked at the carbon footprinting of those construction activities. We looked at the materials and worked with the entire supply chain to calculate their carbon footprinting for their materials. And then at the end of the day, we then offset the residual carbon production for the operation of the building. So what did this do for Sainsbury's? The outcome allowed Sainsbury's to meet their own corporate social responsibility agenda. Most of the customers that we now deal with have such an agenda. They want to take the sustainability initiatives that we build automatically into our schemes and take the benefit of that so that they can report that back to their corporate body. It provided a much lower cost building in terms of operation of that building. And also, what we managed to do is create a carbon exchange for Sainsbury's themselves so that they can now use that exchange mechanism for their ongoing operation of the building. This particular project and ProLogis in general has received a number of awards for the sustainability features and our approach to sustainability as a result of this and many other projects. So I'd like to finish by just declaring what we're going to be doing in Romania and in Central and Eastern Europe. We're going to be incorporating an array of sustainability features into our standard ProLogis specification, which will be a standard specification throughout Central and Eastern Europe. We'll be incorporating energy efficiencies, both at targeting energy reduction for the occupiers, but also in preparation for the introduction of the Energy Performance in Buildings Directive.